When the people at the top of the AI ecosystem are talking about how AI is going to change the world in all of these amazing ways, it's going to lead to a future of radical abundance. Most of what they're pulling on is the philosophical consequence of those arguments from 30 years ago. And we are actually building the nanotech that is the central physical element of that singularity. So this future that we're building, when Ray Kurzweil writes his Singularity is Nearer book, and it looks like massive science fiction, the fundamental science behind that is resolved. It's an engineering problem today to actually build a future that looks more like Star Trek than one that looks more like Blade Runner. But we have to actually do the work, and we have to acknowledge that there are social consequences of technological development that and the choices that we make today that we really, really need to pay attention to. We may not necessarily want all of our information sitting in a few big companies. The architecture of our AI systems might need to change when your phone can have just as much brain power as you do. We don't know what the future is going to bring, but the future that the people on the ground are actually trying to build isn't Blade Runner. It's much more Star Trek. So
Yeah, yeah. So interesting. So this idea that has been floated of abundance is dependent upon significant improvements in efficiency. And part of driving that
it's
efficiency, a huge part of it, is this move in the direction of nanoscale manufacturing.
It absolutely is. And for this, what I'm about to say is probably going to get edited for time. One of the things I've been playing with is the space dreams, right? The original idea, as I mentioned, was the confluence of Gerard O'Neill's "we can build cool stuff with low launch costs." They discovered they needed self-replicating manufacturing on the moon in order to get enough factories to build enough solar panels to replace the all of the dirty power plants on the ground. So for curiosity's sake, I went back to that analysis and I started looking at what we can do today with self-replicating factories on the moon. And it's pretty cool. You can get about 90% of the mass of what you need for a factory on the moon on the moon. You can get about 99.2% of the mass you need for solar panels and solar satellites on the moon. So if you wanted to build a self-expanding city on the moon, you can do it pretty well for a while until you start running out of starships. If you wanted to actually build enough solar panels on the moon to replace the primary energy use of the Earth, 20 terawatts of power, your first like half terawatt or so goes to AI data centers because there's your revenue stream. But after that, you can actually build enough orbiting satellites to replace all of the nuclear, all of the Earth solar, all of the carbon power plants with technology from the 80s if you can build enough manufacturing on the moon to do it. But I start running the numbers and I need 300,000 starships to actually supply that 10% of residual Earth-side material to build enough factories on the moon to get to 20 terawatts in less than 3 centuries. But if you stick the local nano manufacturing in, you can make 98, 99% of what you need to make those factories on the moon on the moon. The hardest part is the electronics. So we could easily live, well, not easily, but we could live in a science fiction future in large part because most of our science fiction is based on the science analysis people did that assumed capabilities that would be available in the future. And those capabilities are starting to become available now.